serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Well, now we're back for part two. This is when, well, we don't get ourselves. This is, I'm not sure if you're comfortable speaking about most of it. Are you familiar with who Gough Whitlam was?
Of course I am.
Yeah, well, Gough was the 50th anniversary of John Kerr sacking him.
Yes, I saw that on the news last night.
Did you? And the Prime Minister, Albo, they sang Gough's praises. Gough was a buffoon. Gough.
Well, you're the only one having this conversation that would remember Gough.
Well, in 1972 or 3, he got sacked.
Yeah, so I was one.
Well, that's why I said I'm going to ask you about a couple of things. Well, do you remember the ABC when on Media Watch when I interviewed Thomas Sewell, who was a Nazi, and I wanted to know, they got the living shit kicked out of me, and and this dribbly little man from the Jewish society, a bloke called Abramovich. He said I should be sacked from all the sporting clubs I was involved in because I had the temerity to interview a Nazi about what in the hell he was on about. Well, I noticed the ABC. The ABC have done a whole hour on interviewing a white nationalist. I'm waiting for Media Watch to rip their own station apart. You know, that little Weasley man who fronts Media Watch, that sort of shallow, uncharismatic dill who runs Media Watch. I'm waiting for them to take them to task for interviewing for a whole span, a whole segment. Interviewing a white nationalist.
Is Media Watch on the ABC? Is it?
Media Watch, yeah.
How many people tune into Media Watch each week?
Well, how many people tune into the ABC? It's you. You pay for it. It's your ABC. We pay for it. They are a disgrace. They are just a left-wing organisation. And the only reason I bring this up, they've just doctored one of Trump's speeches. They top and tailed it. They cherry-picked the first part of his answer and put the second part of his answer and cut out the middle part.
I saw that.
The BBC did it and the ABC have done it, and these are the people giving us guidelines about what we can say and what we can do and our morals and our ethics. They are a disgrace, and you pay for it.
Fair to say he's got a fair lawsuit, Sam. If what I did read about that and saw the top and tail, and that's indicative of so much that is wrong with the media, and that is the one thing that he has said from day one, and the one thing that I will say about Donald Trump and what I do admire about him is the one person that has taken on the media, the world's media, not just we're talking the whole world. He has taken on, and he has, you know what, and he has been proven right time and time again.
Because their slant on his politics is called election interference. They try and sway great swaths of the public by cherry picking and taking out of context anything that he says, and he is the only person that fights back because he doesn't give a stuff.
But on the flip side, so I've just given him a tick. I love the fact that he's taken on the media and in a lot of occasions won, and from what I read, and don't believe everything you read and half of what you see, Sam, but from what I saw, the way that was doctored, doctored, edited, he has a massive lawsuit. But on the flip side of that, I also read or saw the other day that Ghislaine, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell
has just been given a new prison, of which is like a holiday camp.
Yeah, that's right, and she's getting treats and benefits.
So why would that? And Donald Trump's given that the tick of approval. Why would that be okay?
Are you saying Donald Trump's organised her to get a special?
That's what I read. I said that he.
Oh, you've read that. Where did you read that?
he had to give it the tick of approval.
That's absolute rubbish. That is
Okay, so this is something else that's been made up.
that is completely what that Donald Trump.
How does someone so fresh into their sentence go to a cushy environment?
Well, ask Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar lived in a mansion in the prison that he was at because he paid for it.
But the difference is Pablo built his own jail.
What were you saying? You're saying Trump's organised her to get special.
And by the way, Pablo built his own jail in his home country. We're talking about the United States of America here, a little bit different, Sam.
You're telling me that Donald Trump's organised for Ghislaine Maxwell to have special treatment at the prison she's in?
That's what was reported. I'm not saying
Oh.
it, that's why I'm asking.
And
I'm
that's
asking
what
the knowledgeable
happens.
Stan Newman.
That's what happens. The media, who dislike and detest Donald Trump, keep bringing out all this nonsense, all these scurrilous
That's why I asked
headlines, and he catches up with them eventually. He'll probably catch up with that one, and he's suing the NBC or is it CBS or whatever for $100 million for doctoring a speech he gave,
Yes,
top and tailing
you know
it.
what? So he should. But anyway, so that's not true. But is it? But is she? It is astounding that someone could be so fresh into a sentence that is all of a sudden in a living in a more comfortable environment than what she probably should be, given the seriousness of what she's in there for.
How more comfortable? What is the basis for all that? That she's getting?
I don't know.
What,
That's why
extra
I'm
medals
asking
or
you.
something, or she's living in a condo in the prison yard.
I'm asking you. That's why.
Yeah,
I just
they-
sort of,
They would be raking up all the stuff they can if she's been given an extra visiting session or if she's been given something. They'll make a mountain out of a molehill, and somehow they'll work it back to Trump.
just to lighten things a little bit, Sam. I've found a new lip balm, Blistex sensitive. It's like very good.
That's what
Very-
might be making you sneeze, Doug.
No. I've just got on this late yesterday afternoon. They never had my regular one. Highly recommended those who like a chapstick. The light blue Blistex. Very smooth, very sensitive.
I've never had chapped lips ever. I've never worn. Why have you got a propensity for using?
I've always liked
Like
having
them
a
to be
chapstick.
moist.
I've always like having chapstick on me, and I've just discovered this new one. So I like to let our listeners, followers, know that this is very good. If you're a chapstick
you're
man
frozen.
or woman.
How is
Or both.
just wait? That Trump stuff. They cannot help themselves. Every day they bring out something that they sheet the blame home to Trump for doing. They said, "Why don't you release the Epstein files?" Well, Dopey Joe Biden, that retarded
you're
man who
looking
used
very-
to run
yes, you've just reconnected.
America, he had him for 4 years. He never released him. He only released him in dribs and drabs. I don't know what the last thing you heard me say was, Duck, but I was speaking about the Epstein files and why the media asked Trump to release them when Joe Biden didn't release them.
Yes, no, that tangled web, and I tried to follow it, and it just, the more you try to follow that whole Epstein and who's involved, that web is, I assume, goes a lot further than obviously we'll ever find out. But
Yeah, and because I'm not condoning it, and I'm not supporting it, and I'm not his advocate, but silly old Prince Andrew. They went at him because he's a low-hanging fruit. They said he was complicit with Jeffrey Epstein, and they know he can't fight back, and he hasn't got it at his resources, and he's not going to protest too much. They keep going at him and then trying to drag the royal family down and shouting at the king. What about your brother? I mean, seriously, these These are devious actors at work. Now, as I say, I'm not condoning anything Prince Andrew's done, but they go on and on and on about it. But they don't go on and on about Bill Clinton having 28 plane rides in Epstein's plane to that island he owned.
No, I concur with that.
Yes, Gough Whitlam, I was just telling you.
Yes.
Gough Whitlam in 1 year, this is impossible. This is probably why he got sacked. In 1 year, they say this is impossible to do. In one fiscal year, he had the highest interest rates in Australia, the highest inflation, the highest unemployment rate, and the highest days of industrial unrest. In 1 year, they say it is impossible to do. If one's high, the other's low. But Gough did the lot and got given the flick, and rightly so. And they keep building monuments to him. I mean, seriously. This is a bit like Dan Andrews. And how's the government of Pol Pot going? Have you ever heard of Pol Pot?
Pol Pot. I've heard the.
Pol Pot
words,
was
yes.
a despot who ruined Cambodia by making everyone work out in the fields in white uniforms and growing vegetables. Dismantled the whole of the capitalist society. This is what the Victorian government doing. They're very similar to Pol Pot. They have just been awarded the worst state to do business in by the Business Council. They said there's taxes and rates and red tape and land rights are going to come into it. I noticed they've just announced that they've given their first decree and their first direction about land rights, and we had some bloke come out from the Aboriginal Council and said, yes, we've fought for decades to bring back to protect the culture and the country in Melbourne. What have you ever heard anything more nonsensical than that? What are they protecting in Melbourne? Melbourne has been built into a great city and has been slowly decimated by the likes of Dan Andrews and the former and the present unelected Premier, who are just taking no notice of the interests of the people who live in that state and just push on and on and on with draconian measures that have no bearing on 98% of the population, and they just push on because they're smothering their own incompetence by all the things that you and I have to. I don't have to put it, what I'm up here in a caravan. Well, now I was in the process of chatting with Wayne, or to him, and the line dropped out, and so it has dropped out for quite a while, so we've let him go because we weren't sure we could get it back on, so he can't sit there indefinitely in Melbourne waiting to see if we could get the line up. So I'll just finish off what I was going to chat to him about, and I was talking about the Victorian government. Oh really? Yeah, the Victorian government, how they concentrate on so many irrelevant things that are not even in the purview of the people who live in the city. We've done the yes-no vote, and they've still spent $500 million on a voice to Parliament. That $500 million could have been pushed over to the coppers to see if we can arrest the disgraceful crime and litter and graffiti that's going on, and the hijackings and the home invasions. Maybe ramp up the police force or do something constructive with the suburban rail link, or see if we can actually make the people who live in Melbourne take into account their wishes, unlike the Pol Pot government, which I was likening the Victorian government to before. And then we were talking about Gough Whitlam, and we're talking about the whole lot of things that distract the Australian public from what they really want to be on about. So the ABC did an hour-long interview with a white nationalist. That's a Nazi. I interviewed Thomas Sewell on this thing and was taken to task. But no, one set of rules for them and one set for the other. The ABC just found doctoring Donald Trump's speeches, and Wayne says, that he thinks, well, he wasn't actually saying it himself, but the inference is that Donald Trump is having some influence on the special treatment Ghislaine Maxwell's getting in a maximum security prison. Where do you get all this stuff from? I tell you where you get it from. You get it from people, the media, who keep going on and on. They can't beat Trump any other way than making up stuff about him, and he just knocks them off, just sues them and says that you're telling lies, fake news, and that's why he's a star, and he will continue to be a star. I noticed they won 3 elections in the States, the Democrats. One in New York, they made a communist the Lord Mayor, a bloke called Zoran Mamdani. He got elected. That is 85% of the electorate votes Democrats, no matter who's the candidate. And the other 2 people that got in absolutely blue states that are 85% and 70% voted by Democrats. So hardly a resounding win if you are the front runner and you've got all the votes. It's hardly having an election. It's like Russia, Vladimir Putin. They don't have any other person up against him, so he wins every election he has because there's no one else that they put up against them, because they are those particular states. They follow that particular line of politics, unlike the whole of America, who overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump at the last election, and he won all the swing states. And they never mention that because that's cherry picking. That's cherry picking and making out the fact that they've won the last 3 elections, that they're on the rise. They're not on the rise at all. All they're doing is just cementing their base, because their base counts for 85% of the electorate who vote that way. Nothing startling about that. I noticed also that the Winter Olympics are still grappling, just as they arrive, about to make a decision about whether transgender men can compete in the women's Winter Olympics. How long do you have to go on discussing this? And this will just roll over to the 2028 Olympics in America. How long can you keep on going with all this nonsense? What group of people would sit round a table at a sporting institution, the Olympics probably being the prime one in the world, and say, yes, it's okay for men to transition into women and then go into women's sport? What group of people would have to discuss that? That's where we're up to, where eventually they will come to the right decision, and that will never happen. But it won't be because people haven't fought them and taken them to court, and the logic of that is ridiculous. I noticed Ben Fordham says councils in New South Wales are offering free Australian flags to show the pride. Show the pride, not the gay pride necessarily, but show the pride in being Australian. As opposed to we go around this great country of mine, ours, that I'm in, and we see all the Indigenous activity here going on in harmony. People are quite relaxed about the Indigenous people have taken over Arnhem Land, which I think is probably a traditional name given to a land occupied by Indigenous people, because they want to escape the clutches of the colonial system down south. That's fine. Arnhem Land was the name of a ship from the Great West Dutch East Indies man who landed there, so that's a name. It's like Ayers Rock. I notice Albo gave Ayers Rock back to the Indigenous people. The 40th anniversary was never taken from them in the first place. Uluru is just a made-up name, means nothing in English or Indigenous. We just keep getting smothered with nonsense. We're now giving the names of state schools in Victoria to Aboriginal names with 25 letters in them, names you can't you can't pronounce. And we have people radicalising the kids that go to the school. This only happens because you have shallow people with low IQs running. I noticed Dan Andrews, who plunged this state into chaos, and it's never recovered, and being continued by Jacinta Allen. Dan Andrews now being sued by the man Muleman, the boy, Ryan, I think it is, who says no, it wasn't quite as Dan said. Dan ran him over. That's what the boy says, and he's suing him. This is the man. This is the government led by Andrews that lied, was corrupt, was dishonest, plunged the state into $200 billion worth of debt, won an election on the promise of an of a Commonwealth Games, so that all the regional towns would enjoy the spoils, and they thought, oh, that's good, we'll vote for the Andrews government because that'll give us some employment and a bit of prestige. No, they cancelled that the minute they got in. They cancelled the freeway out there just to placate an electorate that might have swung the election over in that particular area. They go on and on and on, and the Westgate Tunnel Freeway and the Westgate Link and all that's been going on probably 5 years overrun. It's probably $15 billion overrun, and it's still not finished, and no one's doing anything about it because they can't, because they're lame. If ever they needed anything, so that's what's going on from our point of view up here. Remembrance Day, they said they might cancel Remembrance Day, one of the couple of the councils, because it's not really relevant to what's going on here. And I noticed a man called Tanner Bruin, who was charged with rape, and along with another Geelong footballer, Pat Sinnott. The club suspended them. Tanner, as I understand it, was out all this season, the last season, the 225 season, with a finger injury. Would you think that would be a polite way of suspending him before they actually knew the facts? The charges have been withdrawn against Tanner Bruin and Pat Sinnott. The bloke Harrison Martin said he lied because he's got a neurological disorder. So he lied about what he saw and what he knew about those two boys raping a girl. But those two boys' career and possibly reputation is ruined forever because the boy who had a neurological disorder managed to lie about what they've done. And Geelong suspended. I would reckon suspended. If you were out for the season with a finger injury, that would be an indirect way of saying we're suspending you until we actually knew the facts. This is what happens. This is what happens. You're guilty. You're guilty until you're found innocent. Other than the other way around. And I mentioned the ABC and the white nationalist that was interviewed, and I wonder where that clown of a man, that Jewish man Abramovich, who is a spokesman for the Jewish order, I wonder where he is having a crack at the ABC. That pithy little man who shrinks behind a word processor. And I'd love to interview Mr. Abramovich. He could come on here and try and justify what his particular stance on life is. So there we are. We had Princess Anne was reprimanded for wearing a slouch hat at a Remembrance Day by those congenital liars, and not liars, just the scribes that just find something wrong with everything. That the people that used to run the networks up in Sydney, and have been on, the Carltons and the Fitzsimons and the people who just spew out nonsense. You watch. I don't get involved in it anymore. You used to tap back on X or Twitter or whatever it's called. You watch some of the crap they talk, and you think, why did I ever get involved in taking these people seriously? And finally, I'm giving Foxtel a notice. I've got 4 Foxtel boxes. If they keep playing the ad where a dopey-looking man sits in front of a washing machine with a boxer dog, and they look at a soft toy called Squeaky in the and they say, I love you, Squeaky. I love you too. If they keep playing that, I don't even know what it's an ad for. That is the most. That is the most annoying, cringeworthy ad. Don't necessarily blame the dog, because the dog wouldn't know that it's being made a dickhead of, and the bloke who's probably just taken the advertising fee. What advertising company would foist that onto the public if you got Foxtel? So if you could get that off, they've probably got a monthly subscription. By the end of the month, if that ad's still on, I'm giving all my boxes back. Jesus, hello, Squeaky. I love you, Squeak. I love you too. It's cheesy. You sit there and you think, Christ, is this the world we live in? Anyhow, there we are. So that's about it. I can't think of anything else that I was going to speak to the duck about. No, the AFL, we covered all that. We've covered most of the things. It annoys me when I finish, because it annoys me that I've forgotten to speak about things. But I think that is about it. So that's You Cannot Be Serious, minus the duck for the last half of this. And let's hope that You Cannot Be Serious is welcome in your household.